This Crow Castle lightning build video goes through the changes you can make to your early game free Autobattle lightning setup as you progress towards the mid game in this game, and the setup in here is based on the free Autobattle lightning build early game video I have made earlier, so if you haven't seen that yet, watch it first. I will link it in the description. And this build assumes not using down archers as a damage dealer, but I will also address the option of using them during this video as well. You will slowly start making these changes somewhere between 200 and 350,000 waves or so. It kinda depends a little bit on your overall setup, so you wanna do those tests for yourself when exactly something works better for you than what you currently have. And don't worry, the changes won't be huge, they won't be very drastical. The main thing you need to change is that as you progress towards the mid game, towards later game, Thunder Tower will lose its status as a superb damage dealer, so you will need someone else to fill that spot for you. And for example, Dark Assassin does wonders in that spot. The reason for Thunder Tower's fall from grace is basically because it cannot wear any items, nor does it have any skills on its own, except the basic attacks. So, as your heroes' cooldowns will get lower and they will get better and better items, the towers just cannot really keep up with them and they will be outclassed by hero damage dealers instead. Which is why it is recommended that you stop leveling your Thunder Tower at level 10,000 and start leveling Dark Assassin at that point instead. But that does not mean that immediately when Thunder Tower reaches level 10,000, you should just remove it. No, you can keep on using Thunder Tower for quite a long time. The damage will get a little bit lower, but it will still stay relevant for quite a long time. To like 350,000 waves or so most likely. Now, in order to use Dark Assassin as a damage dealer, you will need good items for your Dark Assassin. You will need the /+1 rune from the intermediate dungeon, and you will need to activate the skill nodes in the lightning skill tree for Dark Assassin. But first of all, we will need to remove someone from the build so that we can make room for Dark Assassin. If you have the 13 hero slot, then you immediately have one extra slot, so it's going to be very easy for you to put him in. But in here we basically have the option of removing either Dark Elf or Dorothy from the build to make the room for Dark Assassin. And I'm going to be removing Dark Elf in this build and putting the Dark Assassin in this spot over here. There we go. And for the Dark Assassin, you wanna run the left hand side promotion, and as you keep on getting items for Dark Assassin, try to get items that will have area skill damage line as a red line, so L or E tier items. That is the best line basically you can get for your Dark Assassin as a damage dealer. The second best will be critical chance, so get as many critical chance lines as you can get. And eventually you will most likely need one line of cooldown so that you can align Dark Assassin abilities cooldown with your Pure Wizard Dark Necromancer cooldown, so you will get maximum benefit out of that in that way. So area skill damage on both items, one cooldown line, and as many critical chance lines as you can get. Otherwise you will need the /+1 rune set up on your sword as well from the intermediate dungeon. And in early game, if you can get superb cooldown items and you can make Dark Assassin cooldown to be lower than Pure Wizard, you can probably run Dark Assassin as a double proc as well. So if you can do that, then it's worth trying. But if you cannot, then these kind of items are what you eventually will start looking for either way. And that's basically it. Now, Dark Assassin most likely won't be a huge damage dealer right as you start leveling him, but just keep slowly leveling him up, and again, you will still be able to do very relevant damage with your Thunder Towers meanwhile. And one of the other changes you will want to make to your build slowly as you start, especially trying to use the higher level Devil Horns, you will want to have that emergency heal. So removing the Altar of Tower and taking in the Altar of Healing is something you want to do at some point. Again, test when this will be most beneficial for you. So you will lose a little bit damage from your Thunder Towers, but again, they will slowly start losing their damage anyway. And you will get some emergency heal. So this is a change you will want to make at some point as well. Another similar kind of change that you want to make eventually to your build is changing the Red Defender into the Blue Defender promotion. You will lose the tower damage again, but your Thunder Towers will be less and less relevant anyway at some point. So once the time is right, you will switch to the Blue Defender promotion and you will get more defense, more HP for your castle, which possibly allows you a little bit more tanking, since you maybe still have to rely on tanking the hits from the bosses, especially as your cooldowns on Pure Wizard and Dark Necromancer are just not that low yet that you could kill everything before they even touch your castle. Now this is an option you can do and test for yourself when it's gonna be beneficial for you. And then finally, there's also Stone in here who is boosting the Thunder Towers. So once you stop completely using the Thunder Towers, you will get rid of Stone and you can put in something else in this spot. Druid for extra tanking, for example, or some crowd control unit, for example, Giant Ogre or some else crowd control unit in this spot. But also you can kinda keep Stone in here for quite a long time, I feel like, because you have the option once your Thunder Tower is leveled down 10,000 and it starts doing not that great damage anymore, you can use the static orb on your Thunder Tower, which makes them do kind of percentual damage based on the enemy's HP, so they can stay relevant for quite a bit longer than what they would maybe be able to do without this orb. So that's an option you can go for and try. Use the static orb on Thunder Tower and see if it helps you clearing the waves, clearing the bosses at the end of the wave. You can possibly even set them to target the boss monster as well. But there's also other candidates for using the static orb. Eventually, as you get the Slinger PS node in the skill tree in the summon section, I will go through the skill tree in a moment. Slingers are an excellent choice for the static orb as well. And possibly if you get your angels to be level 10,000, you can use angels in this spot instead and use them with teleport promotion so that you can make them do a little bit more percentual damage for the bosses, and at that point you can use static orb on angels. So this is also something you can try. So put static orb in here instead and run angels instead of stone. So at this point you would completely drop your Thunder Tower from your build. But we are not going to be doing that, so we are going to be putting stone back in. And one of the final changes you maybe can try and do your build is removing Dorothy and using, for example, Giant Ogre as a crowd controller unit for your build. So if you are struggling with your crowd control, you don't have the Slinger PS node yet, so you can try Giant Ogre. Maybe you have already did this, but at this point you can try it if you feel you struggle clearing the normal monsters and you are kind of getting overrun during your runs. Try to get cooldown items for your Giant Ogre, make his cooldown to be lower than Pure Wizard's cooldown if possible. So that's your goal for the Giant Ogre items. No other line really helps. So just cooldown lines for Giant Ogre if you decide to use him in this spot. And the question of how high level of Devil Horn you can use with this build almost fully depends on your items, on your units. So make sure to hunt your Legendary Dragon, make sure to craft your L and E tier items and get better and better gear for your units. If you need help on what kind of lines you need for your units, there is a handy list available in my Discord. The link to join my Discord will be in the description, so make sure to check that out as well for information on best lines on each unit. The treasures you will want to run in this build will be the same as you were running previously, so preferably full only boosting treasures, the Wordless Coin and the Devil Horn as well. And in case you cannot beat, for example, Devil Horn +2 with this setup, you can also try Power Claw instead of Whip in here, so you get more power for your units. But this is what I would recommend for your treasures for this build. And in case you are using Town Archers as a damage dealer, you will wanna change the bow to be Cursed Knife instead for more damage for your Town Archers. In which case also you kinda have to do other changes for the build as well. So if you wanna put in Town Archers in for your build and use them for damage, you will wanna make sure that you have Dark Hunter and Dark Skeleton in your build. So we have less slots for our units in here. Again, now, if you have the 13th hero slot, it's going to be much more easier for you to put in Dark Hunter and Dark Skeleton for your build, so you have one slot over there. And for example, you can at that point drop Defender and put in the Dark Skeleton instead in that spot. So that's an option, but you will want to include both of these. If you don't have 13 hero slot, then you will have to try removing someone else. So maybe it's removing Giant Ogre, some crowd control from this build. You have to test it for yourself, but having the 13 hero slot would really help you in that case. Also, if you run the Town Archers for damage, make sure to purchase the Uni Guild and use it instead of the Hero Guild, so that you can get damage boost for both of your Town Archers and your hero damage dealers as well. And at this point, your skill tree will likely look something like this. So full lightning tree in here, and then through the auto circle towards the physical tree, so that you can get the strafe nodes for your Dark Lightning Archer. Now at this point, if you want to use Dark Assassin as a damage dealer, you will also need to get the Dark Assassin skill nodes in the lightning tree. So you will need the slash +1, and you will also need the increased slash damage nodes over here. So these 4 nodes to be activated in order to use Dark Assassin. If you have to refund temporarily one attack speed node, for example, that's gonna be just fine. But eventually you will want to have the full lightning tree as well. And once you are done with this setup, you you want to get the sword node in the physical tree. The sword nodes are always strong for you. And then also in the physical tree, if you get these 2 nodes, you will get more attack speed for your slingers if you keep them on physical promotion. That means more crowd control for you. And the shield node will give you more tanking as well, so that's probably a beneficial choice to get. If you ran Giant Ogre as a crowd controller, you can also pick this node over here. It will give you more knockback for your Giant Ogres to help you in that case. Sword node over here will also help Dark Assassin's damage, boost Dark Assassin's damage a little bit, so that's something you eventually want to get as well. And also, after this one, you will go through the down side of this outer circle and you will get the summon skill tree, get the sword node over here, and also get this slinger PS node over here. So this will be a tremendous boost for your crowd control from your slingers once you get there. It will take a while, but eventually that's what you want to get. After that, you will also eventually want to get this more monsters per wave so that you can start thinking about switching to a gold Autobattle build at some point. But that's gonna take a while to get, but those are the changes. Of course, if you run Town Archers for damage, then you will want to go also and get Town Archer skill nodes in the Town Archer section, probably before you even start going towards the summon tree at all, so just get those in case you are using them. And now again, these changes are something you will slowly start making and testing for yourself, depending how great items you have for your units, for example, and so on. So just try them and see if it's going to be better at this point, or maybe you should wait a little bit longer before doing the switch from Defender, for example, or from the Tower Altar, for example. But slowly, those are the changes you will want to make for this build. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching once again. I will see you in the next one.